with roll call on the left.
Jared Porter here. Sean Peterson. Alan Meyer.
Carla Discharge.
Ryan Bray.
Mary Ann Giannotti. Sonia Chapman.
Okay. And I will appoint Jared for Lindsay. So we have public hearing Z 2021-2028 of Western Express requesting a special permit for a truck terminal on property located at 1293 Norwich Road, Plainfield, map 5, block 4C, lots 13 and 13A, I-1 zoning district. And we do have someone speaking for the applicant.
Where's the best place to set this up?
Anywhere in the front here.
It doesn't need to be in the camera, though, right?
It can just be angled out so the public can see.
Oh.
So we can see and they can see.
My name is, for the record, my name is Bob Newcraft, CLA engineer. I represent Western Express. Also with me is Bruce Poser from Western Express and Paul Sweet, who acts as a local consultant for Western Express. I have some loose site plans I can drop on the table.
Yes, please.
I do have a full set too, and I'll just leave that.
I've got the 11.
You good? All right. All right, so I'm just going to start off by giving you a little background, talk about the site, discuss the improvements we're proposing, go over the staff comments, and then finally answer any questions. So the site is 1293 Norwich Road. It's in between Topa Road to the north and Root Road to the south. It's Western Express trucking terminal. And I'll just go over why we're here. I think you do know Western Express moved here about 3 years ago. At the time, it was zoned commercial. Their use was an industrial use. And they, since that time, have been trying to get into compliance with the town. A couple of years ago, they went through a zone change and zoned, the zoning line changed. Somehow in the past, I think it angled through the site somewhere along here, but has since delineated the rear of the site as it's an RA 30 zone now, and the whole front of the upland part of the site is a I-1 industrial. So, just to talk about the site a little, as I said, it's, well, I haven't said, but it's 13 acres, and it's pretty much split in the middle. Half the site is wetlands. The rear, that is currently RA 30 is wetlands, a little more than 6 acres. The front, a little more than 6 acres, is upland, and that borders Route 12. In general, as I said, it's a trucking terminal, and as far as the operation, if you go by there any given day, typically trailers are stored in this front area. These are typically either empty or full. On the south side of the site, you'll notice another section of trailers. These trailers usually have to be repaired on the, and when I say in general, because, you know, there's any given day there'll be little odd variances from that. But on the north side of the site, they're usually tractors that are being lined up to be repaired. The rear of the property is mostly employee parking. The site itself is gravel. This front area is gravel. This shaded area is pavement around the site, and the entrance is paved. The rear is gravel, and this side area where those trailers are parked are gravel. As far as what's being proposed to get the site in compliance, they want to take care of a drainage issue they have in the front here. If you notice, after rainstorm, this area of ponds in the front here for several days afterward. It's a depressed area that just holds water. The ground's very packed from the truck traffic there. We're proposing an infiltration system in the front area here, and we're also proposing, in order to help get the water to the infiltration system, some double ground millings, which is not quite pavement, but as far as impervious surface, very close to pavement. In addition, what's being proposed is it's required that we delineate all the parking spaces on site. So new striping patterns being proposed in the front. In the rear, we're adding some pavement that will be striped to show the required number of parking based on the number of employees. And also to satisfy the buffer requirement, we're proposing a continuous stockade fence on the north and south property boundary. That's here and here. We're proposing a dumpster enclosure. Right now they do have dumpsters, but they don't have a pad or a enclosure. It's located somewhere in this area of the site, which is within the wetland buffer, so we're moving that out of the buffer and proposing an enclosure around it. If you've been to the site, you'll notice there's some exposed cut areas on site where they graded and never really put soil, established some grass or soil, and that's mostly this area where the depression is. So we're proposing that area to be loomed and seeded and stabilized. Finally, we're proposing some landscaping along the front that was recommended by the town. Actually, there's one other item we're proposing, replacing the building. There are no site lights here. We're replacing the building lights with full cutoffs, which is another requirement. Just make sure I've got them all. All right, so next I wanted to go over the comments that we received recently from the town and just go through each one of them and how we address them. Ryan Gray submitted comments. 1 and 2 were more administrative comments, had to do with adding some signatures and removing some title blocks. Number 3 had to do with providing the details of this landscape in the front, which we provided. Number 4 was adding information, detail on the leaf light fixtures that would be proposed on the building, which we provided. And Chuck Eaton had some comments as the town engineer. The first one had to do with adding some pre-treatment to this infiltration system, adding the hydrodynamic separator, which we did. The second comment was a discussion on whether or not the town or whether or not the rest of the site should be looked at from a treatment standpoint. And what I did is I discussed the drainage on the rest of the site and what's going on, and our opinion as to what's going on and what's going on as far as treatment. So, as I said, so the front part of the site is being handled with this infiltration, with some pre-treatment. The rear of the site, sheet flows to the west, and currently the previous owner created a sand berm along the back here. And as far as I can tell and understand based on the grades out there, the majority of this water infiltrates through this berm in the back here. And then there's an opening here that gets a small portion of the water, where it goes into a 4-bay depression area here that was created some years back before it gets into the wetland. There's also another opening here that goes into another 4-bay area that was created. Now this area, when we went back to look at the site, wasn't wetland back when this original site plan was created 10, 15 years ago, but has now become wetland. So this area is now flagged. It holds water right now. So from what we've noticed, there's no sediment or algae noticed along the edge of the existing wetland. So we feel that the creation of these items, whenever they were met, whether they were done by design or not, are providing some type of pre-treatment. And it is protecting this wetland. The third item had to do with, we called up to do a test pit here, because the test pit information we show on the plan was, they recently repaired the septic system last year. They did some test pits over here. So we suggested, let's do a test pit prior to building this. And I think Chuck's response was, well, we should do it now if you're unsure of what's going on there. Since we submitted this plan, I used to talk to the mass this one. We've done some extensive testing across the street, and we actually have a test pit here and here that went down about 18 to 20 feet. And we found the same material, sand and gravel. Actually, it did not hit water or modeling. So we feel pretty confident that the need for a test pit here it would be a formality at this point. We feel pretty confident about what's going on. This entire area is mapped as sand and gravel. And knowing that we have this, the area of concern surrounded by test pits that are showing gravel, this one was 13 feet with no modeling the ledges. And that's what you're concerned about with the infiltration system. So. Next comment had to do with an illegal discharge. Certification that there's no illegal discharge going on at this site. And I guess that's something recently you added to your town ordinance. So we inspected the building and we found no floor drains in the building. So we can certify whatever form you need us to certify. I say that in the letter. But apparently you may have a form or maybe a form you can come up with. Yeah. Last two items had to do with a lighting plan, which we provided, which show that a photometric would show that these lights stay within the property. One of them is very close here, and I was just talking to Chuck earlier before the meeting, and he was suggesting maybe move this light a little away from the corner just so that the photometrics that are close to the property line won't bleed over, which we have no problem doing. Actually, that was the last one. Did I miss any, Chuck?
No.
At this point, if you have any questions from myself or reps from Western Express, I'd be happy to answer.
So this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience with a comment or question for the applicant, if you could stand up, state your name, and ask your question or make your comment.
Hi, Paula Musa. I was just wondering exactly where is this located? I couldn't hear.
Route 12, it's going south. The old Moskowitz transportation.
Oh,
If you could state your name for the record, please.
Pardon me?
State your name for the record, please.
What's the name? Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Paul Sweet, 260 New Road. You go south, it's the former Moskowitz Transportation, right after Topher Road, it's the old truck
Okay.
pyramid, right there.
Thank you.
No
Yeah.
problem.
We couldn't hear him is the thing. You know, I know
Molly,
that-
I didn't know you with the mask on.
We had the mask, so it
Yeah,
was hard. We
yeah.
didn't know
If I
exactly
can take
where
the
he was
mask
at.
off.
and,
Sure, no
you know,
problem.
We want to make sure we get all the information we want, you know.
Absolutely, no problem.
Thank you so much.
Any other comment or question from the audience on the application?
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I just want to get record, it's obviously supporting the application for a special permit. 260 New Road, Falls Street.
thank you. Any comments or questions from board members?
Could you provide a little information on the separator that's being used prior to the infiltration system?
Sure, it's made by Contact. And they changed them through the years. I'll show you the detail on it. This one has a bunch of baffles in it that separate the sand out, the contaminants out prior to going to the outlet. The other ones have swirl technology prior to this. This is the Contact one. And there's a sizing calculation required for this, which we provided.
Is there a plan to maintain this?
It basically gets to, they'll have to have something in place. I mean, it's like, once it gets to it has more capacity in the catch basin once that sediment gets to that point. I believe it stops functioning, so they're gonna know it's not working.
So would you check it, say, once a year?
Probably seasonally, spring and fall is usually a good idea. And that could be something you could put on the plan or make part of the permit.
And I just want to make sure, you know, these things are great when.
Yeah, if someone doesn't do anything with it.
Right, we've seen, detention bases, well, 10 years of that, we're looking at it. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Excuse me, Bob? Chuck, you kind of, yeah. I think you have that.
Could you speak up, Chuck? We can't hear you from over
Sure.
here.
I think you have that as part of your operational maintenance plan.
Oh, okay, I wasn't aware of it. All right.
So,
So it's already in the plan, so it'll be part of the approval. Standard stuff, right? Forget sometimes.
And Chuck, do you feel that all your comments were met satisfactorily?
I think so. I think that a couple things that the commission should make a determination on. The test pits, whether the commission wants to see the test pits done prior to approval or prior to construction. You know, this is one of those situations where they do have some good soil information around the site, however, not exactly where they're going to put the infiltration system. So we have a good idea as to what the soils are, but that would be something that the commission should make a decision on, you know, as far as precedent and that sort of thing. Let's see, and then we talked about the photometric plan. That light could be moved a little bit, and then it would just be no pun intended, a black and white. You know, we're showing we don't have any lights village. And then the other comment was that, you know, essentially the entire site is used for fleet storage and fleet parking. So that designation is considered a land use of potential higher pollutant loading. So that also would have an impact on the groundwater, if oils or anything like that are leaked. You have excessively drained soils, so any of those pollutants would enter the groundwater very quickly. However, the site is considered a redevelopment site, so basically you are providing stormwater management to the maximum extent practicable. So, if this was a brand new site, you'd be looking to have them provide stormwater management for the entire site. It's not, so it's a redevelopment, and if the commission feels that this is sufficient and is the maximum extent practical to what is proposed, then that is up to you. Does everyone understand the fact that we have two issues here? One is that we have excessively drained soil, so any water that falls on the ground is going to go pretty much right into the groundwater. And then you also have the land use of potentially high polluting use, something along those lines. So you have both of those factors which are in play here.
And am I correct that all the houses surrounding that area are served by wells?
There's no city water now.
Okay, so it's all well water.
Yeah, so-
Okay. All right. Any other comments from staff members or questions?
All my comments have been addressed.
Okay. So, board members, I think with another application, we had talked about the test pits being done so that they could be considered at public hearing. So that might be something to consider, leaving the public hearing open to get that information, to share with the public, so that the public has the opportunity to comment on it as well. With the sheet flow, you indicated at the rear of the property there's a sand berm, and then there's also wetlands that were not wetlands but now are becoming wetlands. So how far are those newly created wetlands encroaching towards the property lines of the adjacent neighbors?
This was the area I was talking about, this little circular area was, when I say new, it could have been within the last 10 years.
Sure.
I don't know, but we did the original plan 10 or 15 years ago when that person came in to put the duck pond in here, and this was not wetlands then. So at some point, whatever he did between then and now, this became wetland. He basically dug a hole, went into the water
Sure.
table and created wetland.
Okay.
So
So is there nothing to slow down the sheet flow from the front of the property to the back of the
to
property?
answer your question, though, is that the house, the closest house is over here. I don't, there's nothing near there.
Nothing on that corner of the property, so it's the opposite side where the neighbors are
Both
adjacent?
houses are forward and quite a distance away.
Okay.
If, Madam Chair, if I may, I heard you right, I'm here, but you talked about leaving the public hearing open. I would encourage you, I would go this far as to say that if test pits, number one, is an issue, local contractor is going to be doing the work anyway, you're more than welcome to be there to witness the test pits. We've dug all around and there's gravel and there's no modeling anywhere. And so the issue of test pits, if somebody wants to look at that would be fine. That could be a condition or something. But second thing would be looking at the site, and it belongs to Weston also. All that is Weston Express property. We walked the property, and I think one of the comments by the town engineer was the fact that, I think, if I'm reading it right, he had come to the conclusion that, just let me find it. Why he said he come to the conclusion, he made a statement that simply said that, just give me a second. On the second page of the comment, typical percolation test for septic system cannot be converted to infiltration rates. I understand that. Unfortunately, this type of assessment drained soil, very difficult to test for infiltration rate, as it is nearly impossible to maintain a saturated condition because during the test. Based on the current proposed plan, stormwater runoff will be no increase in peak flows from the site. Therefore, the infiltration information provided is sufficient. So the sense of urgency for the company is, at one time we had to present a site plan, and it's nobody's fault. The fact of the matter was it wasn't going to go to a public hearing. But then trucking terminals are permitted by special permit, which means your site plan's got to go public hearing. So, okay, we go to public hearing with site plan. There's been really, and especially in the rear, anywhere, any new activities of digging or that type of stuff. In other words, all maintenance work is done inside that building. There are no floor drains in that building. If you walk the site, you're clearly standing on a gravel bank, really. I'm just encouraging you, if we could get granted a special permit with conditions such as this hydro, whatever they call it, I understand what it does. We basically told the staff that if that's what you want, the engineer wants, then we'll do it. We're not arguing with anybody. We really want to get
And we appreciate that, and I understand business and industry urgency, but it's our job as a board to make sure that we're balancing those interests with the residents. So I'm simply making one of the many suggestions of paths that this board can take, and it'll ultimately be up to the board whether they decide to continue or close this public hearing, and we'll go from there. So it's just an item for them to consider.
Let me try to address your questions. And I'll speak to the test pit item one more time. When the town engineer recommended, and we put a test, we asked for a test pit on here. At that time, we didn't. We have test pits all along Route 12 on this side of that property across the street. So we actually added ones that went here, but we have them staggered all the way down the road, all the way down the road this way. It's all gravel, 20 feet deep, no groundwater. Test pit over here, they went as far as when they're replacing this system, they went as far as the excavator that gave us back all they had at the time. They went 13 feet deep, no modeling ledge. And that's what you're concerned about here. So I think now that we have this surrounded, I think there's less of a concern to put a test pit here prior to construction. And I certainly wouldn't want to hold this up to add that information, because in this area, we've confirmed what the soil survey meant to say of this area, that it's all sand and gravel and that it's very deep groundwater. So that was one of your questions. The other question had to do with, I think, slowing down the stormwater to the rear of the property. So there's also a secondary berm here, across here. And I don't know that this one's sand. This one might be more of a gravelly. It almost looks like some broken up bituminous or something. So that's, but it sheet flows in a couple different areas. This sheet flows this way, and some of it comes this way. Some of it comes through here to this area, but I do feel that the majority of this comes to the center here and then works its way through the sand berm, which somewhat filters it. There's also a corner here that there's, like I said, there's another type of little four-way depression. I'm not even sure if it leaves here. This one definitely leaves because it ended up getting connected. The wetland got connected. This was a man-made wetland that's basically acting as an infiltration basin prior to going to the wetland. And this is acting as a little infiltration basin here. So my soil scientist who wrote that section of my response letter walked this entire edge and said, there's nothing happening here. There's no breakout. There's nothing, no sediment. There's no algae growth. Nothing that would indicate that mitigation needs to be put in place. So that's what my comment was, that there is a level of pre-treatment happening here, and there is no, there's nothing that we can see happening in the wetland area to the west.
As this is a public hearing, is there any other comments from the audience? Any other comments or questions from staff?
I'd just like to say that knowing the area and the type of soils that are out there, I have no issues with not having a new test pit dug. There's test pits all across the street. You can see where the water table is toward the rear. It's at, well, the surface water is at 148, so the groundwater will probably be around 146, somewhere in that area. And this is an elevation where they're going to be installing the system. Top is 162, so it's probably, what, about 4 feet deep?
Yeah.
So, 158 or so is going to be the base of the infiltration system. So I have no issues.
Okay. Yep, Chuck?
I just wanted to clarify Ryan's statement. So Ryan, you're saying that the test pit isn't needed prior to closing the public hearing?
I would feel confident in not doing a new test pit before the, in this process, because I know the area. There's been test pits dug all throughout there. The water level is pretty consistent. The whole area is gravel. Down the road, we've got a gravel operation where test pits were dug. They're all about the same depth.
So my recommendation would be that you still do a test pit, have a test pit conducted, whether you do it during the public hearing or whether you do it just prior to construction, just to verify that there's no, somebody could have buried a stump there or something like that. And,
My suggestion would be to have the town engineer go out to witness the test pit
Okay.
prior to
So
construction.
we have both recommendations. Any other comments or questions from board members? Okay. Hearing no others, I'll entertain a motion on the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close.
I have a motion to close by John,
Second?
a second by Sean. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No abstentions. The public hearing is closed. Item Z, 2021-2048 of K&G Development, LLC, requested a continuance. So I'll entertain a motion on that.
Go ahead. I'll make the motion to continue. Next one.
Motion by Sean, second by John. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And no abstentions. Public hearing is continued. Moving to the regular meeting, call the meeting to order. We did have one addition to the agenda, and that is Z 2021-2076 of Edward Nowicki, requesting special permit for construction of an addition with 543 square foot accessory apartment on property located at 62 Leicester Drive, Assessor's Map 14, Block 85, Lot 49B. So I'll entertain a motion to add new business, and that would be item B.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Sean, second by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, added as item B on new business. And citizen participation. This is opportunity for the public to address the board on something that was not a public hearing. Seeing and hearing none. Moving on to unfinished old business. Z 2021-2028 of Western Express, requesting special permit for truck terminal on property located at 1293 Norwich Road, Plainfield, map 5, block 4C, lots 13 and 13A, I-1 zoning district. Items for discussion of board members. I would consider Chuck's suggestion that a test pit be done prior to the construction approval. So if that's an item that the board is favorable to, then just consider that with your motion.
I think that should be added as a condition.
Ryan, were there any other conditions that needed to be stated, or were everything addressed in the plans?
I have a few suggestions for conditions. I was not aware of what we were going to be voting on this tonight, but improvements, the modifications came in the last minute, so. Suggested conditions of approval, should you choose to approve it. Mylars to be filed prior to the zoning permit being issued. Engineering fees to be determined are paid prior to filing the Mylars or within 30 days, whichever comes first. Relocate the northernmost proposed light fixture to eliminate light spillage. Town engineer to witness test pit prior to site improvements beginning. So essentially, when they're ready to start construction, they'll notify us, we'll notify the town engineer, and he'll go out and witness the test pit being done, or just afterwards.
Was it reviewed on the revised plans that have not been, that would lead us to prefer to continue to the next month?
I have nothing. Chuck, you?
No, the only thing would be if you're going to slide that light over a little bit.
And that was the light adjustment that you had mentioned?
How
All
far
right.
over we want to go?
Probably
Yeah.
only not so
That would depend on the photometrics. So they could give me a preliminary plan, just showing where they're going to move it to, and I'll check the photometrics on it.
Okay. All right, so I noted the 4 conditions as read by Ryan, which includes the Mylars, the engineering fees, the adjustment of the light, and then the test pit that needs to be reviewed and approved by engineer prior to construction.
Should we make a comment that Ryan needs to approve the light location?
Yeah, I can do so before the Mylars are filed and it'll be placed on the Mylar.
Any other items for discussion? Anything not addressed that staff wants us to make sure that we include? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2021-2028 with 4 conditions that have been stated.
Okay, I have a motion to approve with the conditions as stated.
I'll second.
I have a second by Jared. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And no abstentions. Application is approved with conditions.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Joe?
All right, item B, Z 2021-2048 was continued. Item C, Z 2021-1963, continuation of Northeast Real Estate requesting site plan approval, and this has also been requested to continue. So I'll entertain a motion on that.
I'll make a motion that we continue C 2021-63 on our evening.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by John to continue, a second by Sean. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And seeing no abstentions. Item D, Z 2021-1964, continuation of Northeast Real Estate requesting site plan approval, and I believe this application was withdrawn. Okay, so noted as withdrawn. Item E, Z 2021-1979, continuation of Carl Kemp requesting site plan approval for storage buildings on property located at 146 Norwich Road, Central Village, map 15, block 72, lot 4, I'm guessing that's 41, commercial zoning district. Did we have the plan for this one, or is this also being continued?
He'll be in.
May we have the representative for Carl Kemp, please?
He's coming in.
All right, we're going to move to the next item. Item F, Z 2021-2044, continuation of Edgewater construction. There was a request to continue this application.
I'll make a motion that we continue 2021-2044 to our next meeting.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by John and a second by Sean. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Application is continued to next month.
He's just on an emergency call.
And we're going to continue rolling on with the rest of our meeting, and when he's ready to present, we will welcome him back in.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't want to waste any of your time, so my apologies. Item G, Z 2021-2045, continuation of Edgewater Bridgewater Construction, requesting a site plan review. Was this one also a continuation request?
It was.
Okay. Requested to continue, so I'll entertain that motion.
I'll make a motion to continue Z 2021-2045 to our next meeting.
I'll second it.
Motion by John, second by Sean, all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? All right, continue to next meeting. I'm just going to have a motion to table item E to the end of the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item E has been tabled to the end of the meeting, so hopefully he returns prior to that. New business, discuss and act on resolution in support of home rule in municipal zoning decision making. So hopefully everybody reviewed the resolution that staff included. And did staff want to make any comments on the resolution?
Just that the zoning board of appeals voted to sign the resolution at its special meeting on the 4th of the month, and the board of selectmen voted to approve it and sign at its meeting last night. As members may be aware, there are a plethora of proposed legislative changes that would have an adverse impact on planning and zoning. And this resolution is prepared to send to our legislators that the town is in opposition to these proposals.
Any comments or questions from board members on what the resolution contains? So just noted for the public, some of the legislation would, by right, require certain developments to happen in the town without the approval or input of this board or the public. So the resolution is essentially indicating that we don't support that kind of power and authority being taken away from the local board. So were there any other comments on that?
I agree. I think we should sign it.
All right, so I will entertain that motion.
I will make a motion to recommend that our planning and zoning board sign the resolution in support of home rule.
I'll second it.
All right, motion by John, second by Sean, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And no abstentions, so.
And if I may say, the first selectman has the copy that's being signed by the multiple boards.
Okay, so I'll see you at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. It is, yes it is, so, yep, okay. Oh, I just lost one. I know. Ah, here we go. All right, so item B was the new item to the agenda, which I believe required a special permit, public hearing, I mean?
Yep.
Okay, so if I'll entertain a motion on scheduling a public hearing.
I'll make the motion to schedule that public hearing for the next meeting.
Second.
All right, motion by Sean, second by Jared, all in favor of scheduling a public hearing? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. And reviewing and acting on the minutes from the April 13th meeting. Was there any modifications, adjustments, or changes to the minutes?
I have none.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Sean.
I'll second that.
A second by John, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none. Minutes are approved. Did we have any correspondence?
I had none.
Yeah,
I had none.
none. Okay, I thought you said had one. All right, so none. Any items under other?
I do have other,
All right,
if I may.
please.
Madam Chair, would you stand, please? Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies on an annual basis awards members with length of service of over 12 years and lifetime achievement with certificates. So as the annual meeting has not been held, Steve Byrne, who's the executive director of the CFPCA, has asked that I make the presentation on behalf of the agency. So if I may read, Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies presents presents to Carla Discharge a length of service award for devoted service as a member of the Plainfield Planning and Zoning Commission for a period in excess of 12 years, presented on the 21st day of April 2021.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Report from zoning enforcement officer.
Okay, 14 Canterbury Road, the Plainfield Bolio residence, junk vehicles, equipment on property. He received a cease and desist and requested that he have until May 31st to clean up the property. I agreed to that, so he is making progress over there. 3244 Norwich Road, the shed property at the old Jewish City Savings. They were issued a cease and desist on April 6th. The cease and desist was sent out to the property owner April 6th. The cease and desist was delivered to the tenant on April 8th, and they had 30 days to comply. That was up this weekend, this prior weekend, and the town attorney is proceeding with legal action against them. 39 Lilliebridge Road, they have junk vehicles and vehicle parts. Let's see. April 20th, the C&D was sent out. It was delivered April 22nd, and they have 30 days to remediate the property, which will be May 22nd. 211 Cape Dowling Road, the Mackin property for construction equipment stored on the property. Cease and desist was sent out April 5th and requiring compliance within 30 days of the receipt, which was April 8th. So May 8th would have marked the 30 days. However, he did appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals. They will hear the appeal on June 1st, and the violation is stayed until that point in time. 13 Simmons Ave, the Driscoll residence for emergency motor vehicles, parts, etc. He was issued a cease and desist and given 30 days to clean up. May 5th would have been that 30-day mark. He did come in and ask for an extension. He says he's going to be working with me. He's supposed to be in this Thursday to let me know how many vehicles he's cleaned up. He will also be scheduling a site inspection so I can take pictures. And if he continues to work with me diligently, we'll be fine as long as he finishes up. If the work stalls, then we'll proceed through court. 2 South Pine Street, the Belling residence for commercial trucks and the fuel cell. Cease and desist was issued for that. They appealed it. The appeal was denied, and I have not seen the trucks on the property lately. I do drive by on occasion and have not seen them there. So I think that might have gone away, but I'll monitor for a little while longer. 0 Norwich Road and Rood Road, the Rood Fields. Notice of violation was sent out for gravel removal without a permit. American Industries is now applying, or they're in the process of coming up with plans to apply for an earth excavation permit. No further work has occurred out there. 2123 8th Street, the Lewis residence. Stockade fence was put up right along the road. It was at an intersection. You could not see anything around the corner. They were issued a cease and desist and asked to remove the fence. They did so, and that violation is now closed. 76 Putnam Road. This is across from the old high school annex. The individuals of that property were using the town parking lot to access the property, and also a camper was there being used as a dwelling. So they've been asked not to use the town's property anymore as a driveway to the rear of the lot, and to vacate the trailer. I'm going to keep an eye on that. 23 Babcock Ave. This is right up the road here. An individual last summer installed a driveway without a driveway permit. They were informed that The location they chose is they're not able to have a driveway there because it is a rather steep grade, cannot meet the driveway ordinance, and they were all ordered to discontinue use of the driveway and restore the curbing, remove the driveway from where it was installed. They did not do so, so I sent a letter to them ordering them to do so in 60 days. And I did receive a call from a contractor, and he will be working to restore all that to normal conditions, or previous conditions. 65 East Main Street, the Citgo gas station. This is across from Dollar General in Central Village. They have an unpermitted clothing bin with garbage piled all around it, so they have been ordered to remove that bin and to clean everything up. I believe I received a letter back today, unclaimed, so I'm going to have to just bring it to the station. And that's it.
Okay. Our report from Planning and Zoning Department.
I don't have anything to add to my written report.
Okay. So that brings us back around to old business item E, Z 2021-1979, continuation of Carl Kemp, requesting a site plan approval for storage buildings on property located at 146 Norwich Road, Central Village, map 15, block 72, lot 41, commercial zoning district. Is the applicant here?
I'll go for Greg.
Thank you. Are you here to speak for the applicant?
Yes, he is.
Do you have copies of the plan? Do you need this to be continued, or are you available and ready to proceed?
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Ryan, have you reviewed the plans? Do you have any additional comments other than the lighting detail that's noted?
No,
Okay, thank you.
You have some hard copy revised plan, there's asked to make 4 copies.
Okay. So is that revised from what you gave us? Okay.
2013 or so. 2000, maybe a little later than that. But anyway, the approval went out. We didn't get it extended, and here we are. And we made a little bit of a modification with buildings and so forth, but it's pretty much a similar, very similar plan to what was previously approved. We added an open RV storage, covered RV storage area. We kind of beefed up the drainage around the facility. We got rid of, we decided that pavement is not a great idea. So we basically are going to have a crushed stone surface, dustless crushed stone surface that will allow some infiltration, although we're not counting it in any of our stormwater calculations. So everything flows on the site around to a swale that runs around the perimeter of the development. And then it works its way into a detention basin. Detention basin then overflows into a couple of rain gardens prior to getting to the wetlands. This has been approved by wetlands. I believe we addressed everything that the town engineer, maybe with the exception of test pits. And I kind of sort of overheard a previous application talking about test pits. We're not taking into account infiltration at all in our stormwater calcs, purely storage and release through a underdrain. And the detention basin sits on top of the existing ground, so we're not setting it into existing ground. So we will do the test pits if the town engineer and the commission requires it, but in this case, I don't think they're really needed. We'd like to do them when we start back up with construction, if the town engineer feels it's necessary, the commission feels it's necessary. But again, we did not use infiltration. Typically, they're done to figure out where groundwater is and what kind of infiltration rates you get, and if there's any. So we are sitting, again, on top of the ground, basically. So we don't think it's necessary. But again, we're happy to do it once we get started with construction. Kind of the general look through the site plan here. Landscaping and lighting. Again, show some plantings in the rain gardens. They're kind of probably right out of the Yukon recommendations for rain gardens, which see stone extends underneath the vegetated filter for storage. That basically, that fills up, it kind of runs into the detention basin. And from there, there's a spillway that would overflow into the rain gardens. So the 2 year, the stormwater calcs are in your packet. Kind of going from memory here, but the 2 year storm is fully captured and stored, so there's no runoff from the 2 year storm. 10 year, I think it's reduced considerably, and the 25 is also reduced. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Chuck, did you have sufficient time to review the revisions made by the applicant?
Yes, it was fine.
Okay.
I had a conversation with Greg's design engineer this afternoon, so I was just trying to go through and check to see what revisions he had made based on our conversation.
Yeah, I think there's one tricky spot with the swale behind the RV storage where we kind of have grades that go up. So what we did, we just connected both sides of the pipe down at that grade. So although the stormwater won't flow, it'll flow through, but you won't really see it. It's kind of a hill there, so that's kind of adequate. We put a note on there that so any water that comes off that roof will get into the trench, will drop down into a pipe, basically an under-drain pipe that's underneath at a level, so it gets the water from this side of the high point around to the basin. So I think that's.
Well, I think the issue, and Madam Chair, I don't know if you want to discuss this stuff later or
Well,
forward.
my feeling would be, if you have not had the opportunity to ensure that the revisions requested have been made to the plan, then it would probably be prudent for us to continue this, to give you opportunity for your full review and input before we consider an approval, because I don't believe a condition should be that you review and ensure revisions have been made. So I leave it up to my board members. If you feel that we should give Chuck full opportunity to make sure that his revisions have been incorporated into the plan, rather than take a chance something is missing and put an approval forward that doesn't have all the necessary revisions. So it may be prudent to continue, rather than have our engineer under a time frame that I think is unfair, and I would strongly suggest that applicants do not double book themselves on meeting nights. So I leave it to my board members. I'll entertain a motion if you wish to continue to the next meeting to give that opportunity, or to approve with conditions, or if you feel it's not sufficient.
Can I just comment?
I think it's up to the board if they want to move forward with their motion. If you have anything else.
The only thing I would say is I think Chuck he did review our initial revision to his last letter. I think there were two items.
And what it appears to me is that the issue is to make sure that it's included in the revised plans that you submitted. By your own note was submitted today.
Correct.
So I understand the urgency of business, but at the same time, I don't want to sacrifice prudence for expediency. But I leave it to my fellow board members. This is 4 members here tonight. So board members, what would you like to do? So you can continue to the next meeting, so we can have Chuck's full review. You can approve with conditions. So it's ultimately up to you. I think my recommendation is clear. I would prefer to continue to allow Chuck sufficient time to make sure the plans are as discussed.
Well, that's what we have on the board. I would make a motion to continue to give Chuck the time to do something.
But I think, Chuck, what, is it one item? I mean, we handed the.
Sir, I think the issue is that it's unfair to the engineer and unfair to the board members to have to sit here for an extended period of time to ensure that everything discussed is included. when we haven't been given the opportunity. So what we're proposing is to continue it, to give the time, rather than force the public and the board members to stay here while that's reviewed.
No,
So that's the motion. So there is a motion on the floor,
I was just trying to ask Chuck, what is that one item?
which can be discussed once we complete this aspect of the meeting. So there's a motion on the floor to continue to the next meeting.
I'll
Did-
second.
I have a second from Sean. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it's continued to the next meeting, which means you will have every time between now and then to discuss outside the meeting with Chuck what needs to be done. And that concludes this meeting, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion by Sean and a second by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Meeting is adjourned.